Welcome back to another episode on John the PM, where we believe that managing projects is not just a job, but a way of life. In today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the foundational class. If you are enrolled in the foundational class, I am assuming that you are coming from a unit or from your leadership or from an organization. And more than likely, it will be a cohort, meaning that folks from the same area. This is important for a couple of reasons. One is so that like minds can generally kind of think about the same type of issues and items that they have as they're going through the course. It is meant to be interactive, meaning that it's not just straight lecture, but it's supposed to be like provide some lecture, provide some thoughts, get some thoughts back, share ideas amongst the class in those areas. We are going to be covering all five process groups within the project management. And so that would be your initiating, your planning, executing, monitor control, and closing. The hallmark of the class is that we'll take a project of your choosing. Okay, so that means that I am not bringing in a case, but rather you are bringing in your real world projects. I do prefer if they are real world because it just makes it more realistic. And we're basically going to take it through the PMI's framework of managing projects. Again, going through those five process groups. We'll also be covering through the 10 knowledge areas as well as 49 processes and about 175 or so odd inputs, tools, techniques, and outputs. I do know that sounds like a lot. I do know and understand that. And it is, quite frankly. However, by applying it to a real world project, again, of your choosing, you'll be able to see how you can use the tools in your everyday world. And that's really the point, the exercise. So when we start off, we're going to start off with some lecture series, and I'll kind of lay down a foundation as to what is a project. We'll talk about some of the global implications, why it's important, just as a matter of fact. And then we'll start getting into the nuts and bolts. We'll go through a selection process, not necessarily because you as the project manager will be selecting a project, but because you as the project manager needs to know how the project was selected in the first place. So it kind of gives you a framework around that so that you can use that back at your organization. And then we're going to go through the planning process. We'll talk about delivering the project, obviously, on those pieces, some of the pitfalls that you may encounter. We're not trying to find any, but inevitably there's always some issues that come up on projects. But again, we'll give you some tools and techniques to one, predict if they were to occur, and then two, some tools and techniques to prevent it so we can prevent it from occurring in the first place. But if it does occur, what can we do to put ourselves back on track on those areas? And then we'll go through a closeout, of a project, in the different facets that are, associated with it. There is going to be a pre-test. There's also going to be a post-test. It's meant to be, fun, enjoyable, a lot of talking, a lot of discussion, that kind of goes on. And there will be a constant emphasis of using it, in those areas. On a daily basis, you also have to do a one thing card. What is a one thing? It is the one thing that you got out of the previous lessons that you can take immediately back to your workstation and use it on those areas. Now, I do ask for people to share, so we'll get some folks to share, throughout the week. Not so much as for that individual. It does help out the individual because it helps them to better articulate in their minds their one thing and how they can use it, but it also impacts others. I'm often amazed of how, sometimes people come up with unusual items. I probably would never thought of it that way, for example. However, it is perfectly valid. On the other hand, sometimes bring up things like, oh, yeah, we already know that. But then I will ask, do you actually do it? And that's a different subject, on those areas. So either way, it is a great tool, on those pieces. The hours are nominally 9 to about 3:34, on those pieces with reasonable breaks, throughout, and as well as a lunch break. We do have to kind of stay on point on those areas. If you have appointments and things of that nature, I just ask you to be professional. You are a professional. And by this stage of your career, you ought to know what is important, what's not important, and you are also responsible for your own professional development. Having said that, nearly 100% of my students have significant family responsibilities as well as work responsibilities, professional responsibilities. So I do completely understand if life does come in those places. Just let me know, and we'll do our best to adjust on those areas. At the end of the day, we are here for you. So even when the class does end and it just kind of like ends, the relationship is expected to continue. And I really cannot emphasize that enough in those areas. So again, welcome to the class. Super excited and looking forward to meeting each and every one of you. Thank you and have a great day.